Welcome, you guys. Welcome back. I am Ernestine Battles, and this is my gorgeous co-host today, Natalie Battles, and we are here to open up our mother's love today. We want you to sit back, get comfortable, relax, because we got a good one for you today. Earlier this week, I watched a show called "In My In My Mother's Garden." Sound like they're gonna teach you how to plant some greens and stuff, don't it? Or some flowers. But it was a powerful documentary. This documentary had me going. I'm telling you, I ran back there and I told Natalie that she needs to watch it. And I said, every mother, or not even a mother, but every woman should watch this show. Okay, the show was basically what these women learned about through their mothers and their grandmothers, even some of their great grandmothers, because they were women of just about all ages from different places around, from Africa into the United States to New Orleans and New York and just different places around the through the United States, and they were telling their stories about their moms and their other moms, and how they paid homage to their ancestors, and how they do it. And I mean, they were truthful about the things that they were happy about and how their mothers and grandmothers were. And I think it reminds me of me and my children and my mother. We call her Mary Nell. Well, Mary Nell was the type of woman, especially when she was younger, that when she was drinking, that she would, do a lot of fighting, and most of the time she was fighting her men and whooping their butt. Okay? And she said what she said, and that's all it was. And how she said it could have been just the way it came up out her mouth. We take the time to maybe think about some of the things that we say before we say it. Ooh, nah. She was going to tell you just the way it was, okay? And she didn't care who you was. So, this is what this show reminded me of. And some of them began with telling you who they were and who they was from. And it ended with every woman telling you who they were, who their their mothers was, who their grandmothers was, and their great grandmothers, the ones that they knew on their mother's side. So if they just knew two, they said those two names, and if they knew three or four, it was an older lady she knew four of her generation to the beginning of when they were brought over from slavery. So, and it shows that some of them talked about what their nationalities were and how some of them was mixed, some of them was full African. This young lady was with her mom. Her father was African from a certain part of Africa. Her mom was. She grew grew up in America because they moved to America, but they never forgot the traditions. And so her mom and her dad always brought their children up in the traditional way that they were brought up, and some of the traditional things that they did. So as she got older, she said she remembered the first time she was going back to Africa. So she said that her mother said her mother was with her. That's what I liked about that. That was the only one that her mother was with her when they discussed it. So her mother told her that she has to, I don't know what was the African name that she called it, but anyway, she asked her mother what was that, and it was just pouring libations for her ancestors to look over her journey and her trip to while she's over in her homeland of Africa, so that she would be protected and gathered with her people. And she said she did that. Her mom showed her how to do that, and she did that before she left. And it was just, she had an awesome time. She said physical, spiritually, she could feel her ancestors around her in that time. So it was just a moving show to me. So excuse me. So this is what some of the things that I want to talk about today. We're going to talk about how do you know your mothers and your grandmothers? If you knew them, we want to know how did they show love to you, because everybody don't show love in the same way. They spoke about that. One young lady, her grandmother never said, physically words that she loved her, but she took good care of them, she fed them, she, gave them love, but they said, they told her she never said, I love you. And back in the day, in older times, it was a lot of parents and mothers that did not say, I love you. Because if I was talking to my uncle today, and I was telling him why he's 80 years old, he be 82 years old, and he was saying that his mother and them just taught them to like fear white people and stuff like that. So fear the white people and stuff like that, because I was telling him back in that day, they taught you guys that because they grew up in the times of slavery, and they was coming out, they had just came out of slavery when they was having him and stuff. So I was saying they did that because that was their way of protecting you, telling you not to look in their face, telling you to say yes sir, no sir, and do what they want to and ask you to do. Because at that time they was taking their children, they was lynching their children, they was selling their children because they figured that they were their property, and they did not want to see their children took. So that was their way of protecting their children. Nowadays, we been here so long and living in the world so long, we're not really among a lot of white people as it was back then. We live in our neighborhoods. The majority of our neighborhoods are the same as we are, black. You may have a few Hispanic people or, a few white people, but the basic neighborhood, well, where I live at, I don't know where you live at, because so we grew up around and went to school around the same people. So we got lax. We got lax in the realization that the world was still the way that it was. It had not evolved. We just didn't see it. So, right, as much. We just didn't see it. And the only time we did see it is when we had racist white people who came around us, or police coming in right in your neighborhood, treating you wrongly because of your color, your skin, and things of that nature. They have the white privilege type of thing. So we need to teach our children. I must say, our younger people today, I'm going to say most of our we have a lot of young people today that are advocates for their rights and our rights. Okay? So they're go into, they really go into it. They know their history. They learn their history. Because my daughter, my baby daughter, she knows so much about her black history to the point when I hear her talk about different things, I be like, for real? I don't even know that. I don't be even knowing that. I be like, what? For real? And that was who? This is me, because I grew up in that stage where they didn't talk about it as much because of where we was at and where we came from. See, we migrated from that south and we came up here in this city up north thinking that the life was so much better. And it may have been better than where we came from. But then we forgot. And we cannot forget where we came from and what happened and why we are the way we are today. So a lot of us learned, I said all of that to go back to why sometimes our parents or our mothers didn't say, I love you, because they were so afraid of losing you. So, as they grew up. Now, I was talking about the older generation. The older generation. As I said, my uncle was 82 years old. And so he is 82 years old. That's right. I was just talking to him today. He is 82 years old, and we were talking about their parents, his mother.
I wanted to just cut in for a second. So I posted the trailer. The trailer is on A Mother's Love page. So if you guys have not seen it yet, go over to the page, check out the trailer. It's on Netflix, so check out. This is not an advertisement. It's not paid by Netflix. Y'all can if y'all want to send some coins. But head over to Netflix and check out the film. But the trailer is there on the page, so you can get a gist of what we're talking about. But one thing that I think is very, very important that I got from the trailer. I haven't seen the full documentary yet, but from the pieces that I did see and from what I heard when my mother was watching it, I definitely want to watch it because it resonates with a lot of the things that I do in my work, a lot of the history that I learned, my spiritual practices and everything. So I think it's going to be great. Jill Scott, I believe, is one of the producers, so yes for that. But for me, the piece that I caught and I heard, and I was like, yes, to whatever she was watching. I didn't even know what she was watching until she ran in the back and told me how good it was. I was like, you need to watch this. We're doing a show on it. So I'm like, all right, let me do some research. But it was the libation singing. So I heard them pouring the libations and doing the libations. And if you all have ever been to any of my events, or virtually or in person, but especially virtually, we do libations to start the events off for our Kwanzaa celebrations, for our everyday celebrations, whatever we're doing. Most of the times we start with libations, and that's because it's all about, one, speaking to our elders that are present, getting that permission to do what we're doing, honoring the ancestors, the elders that are here with us on this plane, but then also calling upon the ancestors that have left us, because it's an ongoing thing. So for my uncle, he's 82, so his parents is my my great grandparents. And so
Your great grandparents.
my great his parents is my great, 'cause that's your dad.
His parents is my grandparents.
So they're my great
Yeah.
two great.
Yeah.
So they're my great grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
So they're that would be my great. Anyway, we're gonna figure that out. Either way, they're my grandparents down the line, okay?
Right. Your
And
great.
so they're my great grandparents, and he's 82. And for those of y'all who didn't know this, spoiler alert, slavery wasn't that long ago, okay? Just a couple generations removed.
Right.
Just so we're clear, because everybody want to act like me. That's a different conversation. But anyway, the ancestors before him, they were enslaved. And then we just found out that his father was 100% African, so there's a high chance that he was not enslaved. So those are ancestors straight from the continent. So all of those ancestors, and I say the ones that come to mind immediately, but then I always say the ones that I may not know, the names that I may not know from my direct line or from my cultural line, so those may not be people that's blood related to me, but the cultural workers and leaders that's done the work to get us to where we are today. We always want to honor them because they lived their lives, and if they didn't live the way that they did, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't live the lives that we live. We wouldn't be who we are. We wouldn't look the way that we look if they didn't do what they did and live what they had to live through. That's a whole nother piece when she mentioned that they were fresh out of slavery, raising him, right? And so we also have to know that the trauma is passed down. And so as I was watching the trailer and I was listening to the women describe the women who raised them and the women that are in their lives, one of the things that was said was that one lady said she doesn't think that black women, know how to heal or know, what that is, right? Or self-care, right? Like they talk a lot about self-care and healing. And what is that for a black woman? And we have to be mindful, and we have to thank, first of all, we have to thank our ancestors for going through all the things that they went through for us to be here and live the privilege. No matter what our lives look like, everybody's life look different, but we have to understand that compared to theirs, we privileged, okay? Yeah. Because they went through what they went through, so we have to honor them. And energy, for those of you, again, spoiler alert, if y'all wasn't aware, one, slavery wasn't that long ago. Two, is that energy cannot die. In science, you can look this up, it's scientifically proven, energy cannot die, it's only transferred, right? So, with that being said, that energy, their energy is still here, it's still around us, it's still present. So we can call on them when we need them, when we need protection, when we just need to talk, when we need advice, when we need guidance, we can call upon our ancestors, right? But, so that energy is still there. So we're calling on them, we're bringing them to life. For those of you who aren't that spiritual in it, but you ever seen the movie Coco? Something like that. Something like that, right? We have to make sure we keep them alive and make sure that we keep putting positive energy on them, because the energy we give them here in this plane helps them heal on the other side. So all the love we send to them, all the gratitude and thankfulness that we send to them can help them heal on the other side. But that's, getting real deep into things. But that trauma that they lived through, that they had to make it through for us to be here today, still got passed on by the grandmothers or the great-grandmothers or the mothers that didn't say I love you, by the ones that didn't have time maybe as much to spend with their kids because they was out working, the ones that maybe, couldn't afford to give them a better education or didn't know how to give their children a better education or whatever it may be because they had other things to do. They were surviving. Now, because they survived, we can thrive. We are at a place now where we can afford to take a deep breath. Not that we still don't have issues to fight, not that racism still don't exist, not that we still got laws to change, not that we still got a lot of work to do, but because our ancestors went through what they had to go through, we have a little more space to take deep breaths, to acknowledge that we need to work on this healing, because what we heal heals them. When we say we breaking generational chains and curses, it's not just for our future generation, it's for our ancestors that have to go through as well. So I just wanted to say that for that part, it's really important that we remember the ancestors and then bring them forth with us as we do our healing work, as we practice self-care. Because as women, and if you watch the documentary, you'll see that they talked a lot about how strong their mothers were and their grandmothers were. How powerful they were. How you don't know struggle, okay? You don't know what that is. My mama do though. Like, all the things. It was always about survival, being strong. And still to this day, that's the label that's on a black woman.
Right. And when you were talking, that's what I was thinking about. That every one of them talked about how their mothers and grandmothers, even though they may have been in pain, even though they are physically or mentally pain, they never showed that to their children or to their daughters. And most of the ones that was talking was it was a few babies, but most of the ones that was talking was the oldest. Okay, so they never showed that, and that's, like she said, that's the way black women are looked at, as their strong-minded bodies, that they can go do anything. But it was one young lady that said her grandmother was the matriarch of her family, and she was not taking care of herself because she had so many different things really going on. And then she had like diabetes and all of that. She died at a young age, which made her mother now the matriarch of the family. Too soon and too early for her to take on the pressures and strain of the family. She was like 30 years old, and now she has to be that one that they look up to. And it's not just her family, her children, but other people that's in the family, because she was the oldest of that family at the age of 30.
And that's the thing we have to realize too. Though we admire, because my mother, my grandmother, baby, I admire these women. They are some type of strong. I ain't gonna never not describe them as that. They got a whole lot of other things as well, loving and giving and all these things. But baby, they strong. The thing about that is when we can't express, because they said like you never let them see you sweat, right? When we can't express how we feel, we pass down that generational curse of that you have to be strong. Because if I can't never come to you as a mother or as woman to woman and say, hey, I'm tired, or I need a break, or I need to work on this, or I need to heal, or I need some me time, or if I can't do that, you don't know that it's okay to do that. So you just see me bearing all of the weight, and you think that's what you need to do too. So that again, that generational curse gets passed down, where you feel like you just got to keep piling on the weights, and you don't ever need to take a break. You don't ever need that bath. You don't ever need that me time. You don't ever need to cut off the phone. You don't ever, because it's go, 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 and that's all we've seen our ancestors and our mothers and our grandmothers do. When in reality, we need to be telling them we tired. You know what I'm saying? Not that makes you no less strong, because you still get the stuff done, but it's okay to be tired. It's okay to say no, not right now. It's okay to turn the phone off. It's okay to take a bath. It's okay to go get a massage. It's okay to go get your hair done and your nails done. It's okay, and we have to show our daughters that, so that we don't continue what really is the strong black woman, superwoman complex curse. Because why is mama the matriarch of the family at 30? That's me right now, being a matriarch of the family. We killing generations with stress. Stress is the number one killer out here, and that manifests in your body as ailments.
And that's what happened to her mother. Her mother started not eating right. She got diabetes, and started stressing out, because she wasn't able to talk, or she wasn't able to get that, she got to be this and she got to be that, you know. But she says, you know, now her mother is much better, I think, in that aspect. But that's the typical black woman.
We go, go, go.
And we have to understand that if we don't sit down sometimes, it will knock us down sometimes, okay? And you don't want to get knocked down. You want to be able to sit down and relax yourself when it's your time. We take care of everybody in the house. We take care of our husbands. We take care of our children. We take care of the dog, the cat. We take care of, in my aspect, my turtle. But we never take the time to take care of ourselves. We must take care of ourselves, because if we do not, how are we going to be able to take care of anyone else? We must be able to take care of ourselves. I repeat again, on the plane, when you're on the plane, they said, do not tend to nobody before you tend to yourself. Mm-hmm. Because you cannot help nobody if you don't tend to you. If you don't put your mask on first, you can't put on the baby mask, because you might pass out before you can get the baby mask on if you don't put on yours first. It is not selfish to tend to yourself. Hold up. Hold up.
I'm going to cut in right after you.
We can be selfish now. Hold up. Sometimes we think it's all about us and nobody else. That is not what I'm saying. Okay? I'm saying take care of yourself health-wise. Take care of yourself mentally-wise. But don't kick everybody out the way and never go back to them. Okay? You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
So I started a movement. T-shirts coming soon. Let me know if y'all need one. It's called, I know I started a lot of movements, so I'm aware, y'all. But this one is called the Me First Movement. And so this is important because I didn't start it for the community like I do a lot of things. Most things I actually start for myself, and I realized the community needed, so I share it. And that's what happened with this one too. Me First Movement, I was having a conversation with some of my girls, and it was around abundance and self-care, radical self-care and self-love, right? And that's what I'm about right now in my life, because I haven't been about it for so long. So I'm speaking to myself when I speak to you, okay? It's me time, okay? So Me First Movement, I stated that, and I was like, ooh, that felt right to me, right? So Me First Movement is the thing where you put yourself first, because if you continue to pour in everybody else's cup and you only got what's in your cup, and you keep pouring in everybody else's cup, eventually your cup gonna be empty. It's gonna be empty, and that can't nobody get poured into, because you empty. So you empty, and eventually now they gonna be empty too. But if you constantly pour into yourself, there will be overflow, and the overflow will go into everyone else's cup, and you remain full. And that's the Me First Movement. That's the visual I need y'all to think about when we talk about black women, self-care, and healing. We have to do this for our babies. We have to do this for generations to come, and we again have to heal these ancestors that didn't get the opportunity to live the life we live in. We got to do it for them too. Me First Movement is pouring into your cup so much that it's an abundance of overflow for everybody else, so they still getting their drippity drops as well, but you never end up empty. Because again, if you're depleted, then they're depleted. And if you still got stuff you need to heal through, and you angry and you stressed out, you're passing that on to your children, and they're gonna be the exact same way. If you can't say, hey, I need a break, give me 15, or I'm gonna go take this hot bath, or whatever it is you need to do to your daughters or your sons, but especially your daughters, because we're talking about that in my mother's garden, they gonna be mothers one day. Then they gonna feel like they have to take on the pressure of the world, and they can't never say, not right now. So they gonna be stressed out, and we cutting off them generational curses. We working on self-care and healing for the future generation and the generations that got us to where we are today. Because they work too hard for you not to take a break. Okay? Mm-hmm. They work too hard for you not to take a break. Go on, sit down.
All right, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Because we have to, you know, when she said the Me Too movement, I know everything reminds me of something that's in the Bible. That's why it said, "It's nothing under the sun." I think it's even a song that says, "Fill me up, Lord, till I can't." Till I overflow. Fill me up. So this is what her Me Too movement, Me First movement. Okay, I'm changing the name.
No, Me Too is a whole nother thing.
Okay, Me First movement is when she talks about the overflow. When she talks about if we fill everything else up and not fill ourselves up. It reminds me of we filling all our family up, if we filling all our children up, if we filling our households up, but we're not going to the source to ask to be filled up. Then we're empty, completely empty. And we can't sometimes make it to be refilled. So we must refill, ask to be refilled ourselves, that we can help others. But we forget that we have to be filled. We have to ask for the fillness. Fill me, Lord. Fill me, Lord, till I want no more. Okay. So,
and that goes into knowing your ancestors too. We talked about how we need to honor our ancestors and call them, but you have to know them to do that. Not all of them, of course, but start doing some research and figuring out and talking to your family. Not even just getting on Google, but just talking to the elders in your family and getting those stories and getting those names and writing them down so you know who to call upon. And you have a base of who you are.
Right. You have to know who you are. We don't know who we are because we don't talk anymore. We don't tell the stories of our ancestors, where they came from. So our younger generation today don't know where they came from.
At one point, before television, tablets, phones, and a whole lot of other things, all you had was grandma sitting down telling you stories, or whoever else was there talking about what happened and sharing conversations. Now it's so many distractions that we could be right next to somebody and not having a conversation.
And never look up at them. Sometimes we don't even know they're in the same room we in. So this is what we have to get back to. We have to get back to telling them who we are. How you gonna learn who you are if you don't know the story? That's the thing that I'm trying to learn. When I think my daughter told y'all and we told y'all that I was tested. I took the little DNA test to see who I was, and I found out that I'm over 50. I think 55 or 53% Nigerian.
Every day.
And that's the strongest part of me. I'm just
90-something% African, okay?
Right, I'm 93% African. I got a little Kenya and
over
North
half
Africa,
Nigerian,
South African, and all that in me. But I'm over 55% Nigerian. And that's how I found out my grandfather was 100% African.
You never knew. And that's the thing. And the craziest thing was the person who told us, which is her uncle, that's 82 years old. She was talking about earlier. Our uncle. This has been an uncle that's not like estranged, and we don't never talk to him once a year, come around type uncle. We lived with this uncle almost our whole life. He's been there like a grandfather our whole life. And she had to take a DNA test and ask him questions about it. For him to say, oh yeah, my daddy was 100%. How was we supposed to know that if you don't tell us? But we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So it's important to just ask questions. Just grab them elders and just start asking all the questions you can come up with and make it important to you so they know it's important.
Yeah. A lack of knowledge. My people perish because of a lack of knowledge. And we have a lack of knowledge of who we are.
Because it's been stripped from us.
And whose we are. And what we can do. Because throughout the years we let things bring us so far down, that's including ourselves. We bring our own self down when we don't not self-care. To the point that we don't even want to know that we could be kings and queens or related to somebody that was a king and queen over in Africa.
Well, over here, that is
over here,
thing.
right? Because we find out that we're so much related to so many people right here that we don't even know about.
Cousins and aunties and uncles.
Right. So we need to find out who we are. When we do, we need to talk to our children and let them know who they are. Let them know that they're not that little black child that they talking about in the street. And let them know that they are little prince and princesses, that they come from kings and queens. And they are more than what the people say they are within their hearts. They sold in their generations. Before the generations that they know of right now. You know. So we have to work hard on that and let our young ladies and our young men know who they are and who they could be.
Yeah, it's the possibility for me. It's the fact that despite everything we have gone through here in this country, and despite everything all the work we still have to do. Again, slavery was not that long ago. Look where we are. Just a couple generations outside of slavery. And they've still got a boot on the neck. And look where we are today. If we truly educate ourselves and our children mentally, spiritually, and physically, there would be no stopping us as a people. That part. If we pour into our young people and give them something productive to do, we truly educate them, there is no stopping us as far as our future is concerned, but we have to wake up enough to see what's going on and take control of our future, which is taking control of ourselves and our children, because we raise the children. So when I hear the term in our mother's gardens, we are the gardeners. We are the garden. As mothers, as women, we are tending to the fruit, to the plants, to the life, to the babies that we bear.
Right. And
once that seed, we are pulling the weeds. We are watering the flowers. We are giving the sunshine. We are pouring into these little beings, these little creations, these little creatures, until they grow. And what we put into them is what we will get back out. So, as a gardener or anybody who gardens or a farmer or anybody knows, if you're tending to that crop, if you're tending to your garden, if you are pruning, if you are moving soil and doing all the things you need to do, which is pouring into our young people, teaching our young people, guiding our young people, then we're going to get some beautiful, plentiful fruit from those trees, and those flowers are going to come up beautiful, and our gardens are going to be amazing because they are well tended to. That's what I think about when I think of In Our Mother's Garden, because they are the garden. They are the gardeners. And then we are the fruit and the flowers that come from those gardens. But what are we passing down, right? Because, I mean, we're going to be honest. Every mama wasn't in there tending to that garden, okay? Every mama wasn't. But then you have the responsibility, because now you're the gardener. As a woman coming up, you have to decide what type of gardener and what type of garden you're going to have. And for those mothers that were amazing out there tending the garden and on their knees praying through them flowers, okay? What kind of garden are you going to keep pushing forward? Because the garden can be beautiful and then get passed on to someone else, and then that thing deteriorates. So it's an ongoing thing, and I think we need to really put that in perspective as far as life is concerned in our mother's garden. Because it also speaks to that ancestral lineage, even though they may be gone. Some, mothers are not here. Some grandmothers are not here. But their garden still exists. Those flowers, that nature still lives on. Because we live on. We are the representation of them. We are their garden. So again, the gardener may pass away, but that doesn't mean that the garden dies. Because now we have to take care of that garden.
Only if you don't let them know how to tend to the garden. Mm-hmm. With the garden sometimes overgrow to the point that it's choking itself? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to teach them how to tend to the garden where everything is done in a proper way? Mm-hmm. So, in that aspect, I also want to say, before we leave here today, we are starting with Natalie's generation. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations of women that has passed from us on my mother's side. So it's Natalie. Her mother is, who is her mother? Ernestine Palace, which makes me her one. Her, me, and then my mother, which is Mary Nell. So that's 3. And Mary Nell's mother, which is Martha Lee. No, it ain't. Martha, yes, that's what they call her, Martha Lee. But her name is Willie. Her name is Willie. That's what my sister's name is. Her, that's 4. And her mother, which is Caroline Greer, makes 5. I don't know.
Generations out of slavery is what you're saying.
Right. Mm-hmm. 5. So I don't know who Caroline Greer's mother was. I think my nephew had came up with it on Ancestry. If you can find it, let me know. And if we find that out, that would be 6 generations from us. Okay, 6 generations of women on my mother's side of the family. On my father's side of the family, I only know his mother. I don't know as many from my father's side of the family. But my grandfather's side of the family, I know his mother also. And that's as far as I know on that side of it. That's me. I am the baby of my mother's children. So my sister, and my aunts my only aunt that's still alive from that side of the family may know more. But that's all I know. It's the 5 generations of women leading with our children, this is my baby, me, my mother, her mother, and then my grandmother's mother, which is my great-grandmother. I think they have found her.
Margaret?
Caroline Greer's mother was Margaret. Okay, Margaret. So that's 6 generations.
And then
She had to be
like Margaret's, we don't have Margaret's mother, but we have her, Caroline's father's mother. And that's Martha Strong.
okay.
And that was 1840.
See, I mean, we have went back. So that's 6, and her father's mother would make 7 generations of women that we know of on one side of the family. So, I mean, that's awesome. That is awesome. So, how many generations of women do you know in your family? And how did you guys get a chance, if you can, put some comments in, how did you get a chance to learn about your family? I learned about a lot of things that happened in my family through my grandmother's conversations and my mother's and my auntie's conversation, telling me what went on when they was down south and when we came to Chicago, because we migrated to Chicago.
They were part of that great migration you might have heard about.
Yeah, we came from down south to Chicago and I have been living here since I think I was about 3. And I am finna be 60. So I have...
So I'm one generation.
Right.
I'm first generation Chicago.
Right. She...
Outside of the Great Migration. Because you migrated.
Yeah.
I'm the first. Your
Right.
children.
Yeah, we migrated from Georgia and Alabama, Phoenix City, Alabama, to Chicago, because that's where we live, Phoenix City, Alabama, to Chicago in the 60s. Yeah, in the 60s, we came here. So my children was the first generation born in Chicago.
In the north.
And their children is the second generation. We don't have no third generation yet.
Hopefully not coming soon.
We don't have a third generation yet. But and we talk. I'm doing more talking now than I did before, because I was one of those ones that was working and coming in. So I didn't do a lot of talking then, but we did talk, because I used to sit at the table with my kids. And that's where we had conversations.
Grandma's house and talk.
Right.
Look through the photo albums, and Grandma would point out people, and she had a wall of pictures. And that's another thing. We don't have pictures on the wall no more. Everything's digital. So like we don't have where you can just point up and be like, who is that? Well, that's your great great uncle. You know, we don't have.
But we
that.
have the pictures. I have crates of pictures that I want to put up.
I'm saying like. This generation is what I'm saying.
Right,
like, people
right.
nowadays,
they have everything
rare.
on their phones.
Yeah.
They have everything on their
and
phones.
if it is pictures on the wall, it's just the people who live in the house. Maybe some little extended family.
Yeah, but I have generations of pictures that came from my great grandmother's photo albums, my aunties, their fathers, and their mothers and cousins that was way back. I got the pictures, but I ain't got those pictures because they were my mother's collection of pictures.
Grandma loved
So
pictures.
she loved pictures, and everybody must bring her or send her pictures. So I got pictures of the family from Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, where that my other cousin. We're all over.
That's
Let's
probably
say
why
it
I
like
love
that.
pictures so much.
They're from all over, and so and that's good because every time somebody come, that's what they want to do. When my nephew was looking for to do the family tree, he got names from me because not only do I have pictures that my mom had, I got birth certificates, I got death certificates, I got obituaries.
That's a great
Wow.
point. It's not to cut you off, but that's a great starting point. So if you're trying to piece things together and figure out who's who and what's what, look at obituaries, because obituaries typically have a list of like who's connected to who left behind, how many kids, and that can help you kind of connect some dots and go back. If your family keeps obituaries, if your grandmother or a great aunt or uncle or someone has them, that's a good place to start because it can get you back pretty far.
Right. And so I was just elated to be able to go through those paperworks and get what he needed to get him a little further, because if we get a little further in our backgrounds and our generational, we'll know who we came from, and now that we're not getting the information out like we should get the information out, that this information would be there for other generations that come behind us, and they will know who was who, you know. So that's how we know who we are, where we come from, and how powerful our people are, you know. So just love one another.
And go watch the movie.
Yeah, and watch the movie.
Again, it's in our mother's garden. Please go watch it. I'm gonna watch it. It seems to be.
I have watched it twice.
A powerful story, and hopefully it gets the conversation started. So if you can, watch it with your mother, watch it with your grandmother, watch it with your daughters, watch it. And then even if you can't be in the same house, you know, due to COVID, virtual watch it on Facebook, or, you know, all these different ways that you can do things like that now. Or watch it and then call each other and talk about it afterwards. Get the conversation started in your family, in your household, where you can start to reevaluate some things or open some doors to some true, deep conversation. Because like my mom said, they were not pulling any punches. They were telling it how it is, how they grew up, what it was, good, bad, beautiful. Get those conversations started within your household. One, because it's a healing process. Again, we're healing for us, we're healing for the future generation, and we're healing for the ancestors that are already gone. But then also, outside of the healing, you can just learn a lot. You can learn so much, and so it's a therapeutic thing. So watch other people go through their therapy through the documentary, and then go through your own in your personal life and your family. Get the research started. Start tracking back those ancestors. Get their names, get their story, and it helps you to pull your story together because you are a descendant of them, and what they've gone through is in your DNA. So I think that's another really powerful thing we don't think about. We are literally them because. And they are literally within us because we share that DNA.
Yeah. And me, myself, I always wanted to write a book about my family. I always wanted to. I would start writing, I would start recording some things and stuff. But I really never knew how to get that out there, you know. So my daughter came to me one day, and she was going to write her memoir. She was talking about writing her. My oldest daughter, Chanel Lane, talking about writing hers. And she came to me one day, and she said, Mom, you know how I wanted to write my memoirs and stuff. And I said, yeah. So she said, before I do that, I want to write yours. So me, myself, I always like, you want to write about me? You know, I ain't got really much. She said, you have a lot. She said, how you be sitting here telling me stories and you remember different events that happened in the Chicago, like with the Black Panthers and how they was talking, because I was talking about the Black Panthers and how they made them look like they were bad and they really wasn't bad, and if something was going on at that time, they would call the schools and let the schools know that yeah, that's what I was trying to do. They would call the schools and let the schools know that something was going to be happening and that they should let the kids out early to get home. And the school would actually say that. And I wasn't just at one school. I went to Bessie Ross on 60th and Wabash. And I remember them doing that. And I went to Wadsworth on 64th and University, and I also remember them doing that. And they let you know, go straight home. On these calls, they didn't call no mamas and daddies to say, we sending your kids home, or is it okay if we send? No, they let school out early. They tell you to go directly home, and they told you why you had to go directly home. And we did. We was a little more obedient than some of our children are this day. But we went straight home. So when she told me that, she would tell me every Tuesday, I'm going to give you something to talk about. And so I would record things and I would send it to her so she can hear what it is. And so I recorded some stuff and I sent it to her, and she said, Mommy, that's where I get it from. I said, where you get what from? She said, what she said, she a poetic speaker.
Poetic storyteller.
She said that she's a poetic storyteller, and she said that's where I get it from. And I said, from who? She said, from you. From who? She said, from you. She said, because when you send these tapes, you tell the story like you right there, and you can actually see what's happening in the story. And I was like, oh really? She was like, yeah.
That's why it's important as mothers to talk to your children, especially when they get older. You know, it's a little more difficult, you know, when they're young. But once they hit a certain age, and tell them your story. Tell them the things that you've gone through and that you lived through and that you learned in your experience, because your experiences can help them on their journey. Because the thing is that you've lived through where they're going.
Right.
Just wanted to say that.
Yeah. And I talk to my children. I always talk to them and everything. So, I really have been enjoying doing these tapes, and it has been so healing to me. It has been healing to me to think about some of the things that I did, what I went through, why I went through them. And everything, like who I am and why I'm the way I am.
It's like a little mini rap.
Right. And this is, and telling my story is the way it heals me. Because it brings back things. I'm not saying bad things. It brings back good things. It can bring back bad things too that you have to go through. Because healing ain't easy. Right. So it brings back so much. It brings back joy sometimes, and then sometimes it brings back some sadness. But we have to bring it back in order to heal ourselves. You have to go through some stuff in order to heal yourself.
But pause you right there. You don't have to get over some things to heal yourself. You gotta go
through
some things to heal
yourself. That's
yourself.
exactly what I was finna say. She must have was reading my mind, because I was finna say, you don't stay in it, you go through it. That's what I was finna say.
And you don't get over it. You don't just hop over it and act like it ain't there. You have to go through it, because if you don't deal with whatever it is, it can keep coming back up later.
Right. You have to go through it. So, it's just good. So maybe sometimes when you going through some things, or when you start talking about your life, I think it was real good for you to get on put a little recording on your phone or whatever, and start talking about different things in your life and see how it makes you feel, because she never gives me something in order. I mean, it's never like, okay, when I was born, this happened, okay, now I'm 9 and this happened and this happened. No, she gives me little stuff like this week and last week, what was your favorite class? And through saying what my favorite class, and I went through my life story. Why was this my favorite class? Why did I feel like this? And it went all the way up to my work and my work ethic and my work, because this is why it was my favorite class.
Teachers are important.
So, and how did I meet my G? That's my G. That's their boo-pa, their granddaddy. How did I meet my G? See, because he's my stepfather, and I call him my G. His name was Jimmy, and that's a J. But I called him my G. That was my G, and that was their boo-pa, okay? So, and going through that experience, I thought about me being a child at that time and how I felt. But I thought it also brought up memories about how good he was to my mother and how good he was to me. And I went all into when I had my first child and when I had all my my children, how good he was as a grandfather.
He's a great grandfather.
To my children, and how he loved us. So it's a good thing to talk about some things. It's a good thing to have a diary. When I was younger, I used to write. Let me tell y'all this. I used to write, okay? I used to write my mama when I had stuff to talk to her about. And I used to write, I didn't write a diary. I talked to God. I always wrote stuff to God about what I felt. I always wrote it on a piece of paper and stuff, and what I might be going through and stuff like that. And it was healing. But my daughter do a working through healing workshop, writing through healing workshop, and I never connected them. I never ever connected that with what I write, what I used to do. So it is helpful to you if you can write it. If you can't write it, you can record it. I was saying I used to write, but I can't spell now.
God knows your heart.
Let's be truthful about this then. Never could I spell good, okay? But I spell better now because I've been right. But it didn't matter. I was still writing, and God knew what I was talking to, and Mary Nell did too. So,
and also, it's also a good idea, because I've been thinking about doing that since Jaleel was born, but write or record messages for your children so that when they get older, you can give it to them and they'll always have it. So like with things that we have the luxury of having now, like Google Drives and Dropbox and, flash drives and CDs and DVDs, whatever else, right, SD cards, you can store it all in one hard drive, store it all in one central place where every time, you have a revelation or something you want to share, you can record it, you can type it and keep it all in one thing, so that label it whatever you want to do, organize it however you want to do, and then once your kids become a certain age, become adults or whatever, you can give it to them, and it'll be stories, and you can even add pictures and video clips of their life, their journey, and you parenting them, and words of encouragement for different parts of their life or whatever it may be, and they can always have that digitally. So recording or writing images, video clips, I just think a compilation of all of those things that you can give your child one day and say, hey, this is your story, this is my story raising you, or words of encouragement, or whatever it may be. I just think that's a good idea as well.
Yeah, that's nice. That's real nice. Well, what time is it? Because we don't want to keep you guys too long.
7:07.
We don't want to keep you guys too long. It's always a pleasure being able to talk to you guys and get these things out and these stories out to you all. Once again, I love you all. We here together. We're going to get through these things together. And as my daughter always say, the 30-year-old, it takes a village. And that's not just for our children, that's for us. Yeah, it takes a village.
So recap, go watch the film on Netflix. Again, the trailer is on our page. In Our Mother's Garden is on Netflix, so if you have an account, go check it out. After you watch it, call your village. Call your mothers, your grandmothers, your aunts, your sisters, the women in your life, and start a conversation. Start working through that healing journey of figuring out what are some of the things that you need to work on. What are some of the traits and characteristics, good and bad, that you received from your mother or grandmother? And start really getting into those serious and real and deep conversations about Black womanhood, because that's really what the documentary is about.
Yeah.
And we need to have those conversations. And outside of that, do some research. Gather your information on your heritage, your direct family line, those women in your life who are still a part of you today. Honor them, for libations for them, call upon them, learn their names, and learn about them, because it's learning about you. Good recap?
Good recap. Perfect. And once again, we love you all from a mother's love. From love is rooted in happiness. From till we meet again, we love you. And we'll see you next time. See ya.